And we are live on this April 18th Saturday night, the Saturday Night Show. The Ochelli Effect. I'm your host, Chuck Ochelli, as that bumper does tell you. Oh boy. It has been a rough couple of days, I gotta tell you. Interesting, we did that little extracurricular show on Wednesday night. That was kind of fun. But the fallout that follows. Anyway, I want to thank everybody for tuning in, on your applicable applications, on your fondle slab of choice, all that kind of stuff with the tune-in, the shoutcast, etc., or if you decided to go to ucy.tv/TOE, you can now see that there is a YouTube playlist there. There is the entire RSS feed for the show from its inception on this network. There is a donate button for me. There is a donate button for the network. If you donate to me, a piece of it goes to the network anyway. I do that voluntarily, just so you know. And all of that is appreciated also. And anybody who's even bothering to tune in and listen to us, whether it happens to be further on down the stream on the YouTube, if you're just passing it around to your friends, if you're catching it because some other website is posting it, doesn't matter. I appreciate even that you give me the time in your little ear hole. So, what are we going to do tonight? Well, another coalition member, a guy of interest. I have a varying array of guests on this show, everything from college professors and scientists, straight on to interesting authors of note, to broadcasters of all sorts, occasionally some musicians, not as many as I would like to have on, all that kind of stuff. Very seldom do I ever have anybody on who is actually from the network, because I'm not in very much contact with very many people, although I got to say that the guy who's been consistently in contact with me since I started here is Vince Easley, and I do appreciate everything Vince does, so quick shout out to you, Vince. And of course, to all the people in the chat room who I can't see at this very moment, but I will be checking in with from time to time, all that kind of good stuff. Do appreciate you. Other stuff on that ucy.tv/TOE page, by the way, not just a player and all that, but the schedule for the plethora of other interesting shows with all of their archives, etc. And what else? Gee, what else? Oh, the news feed is on there as well. So, like I said, another night where we're not going to focus on the JFK thing. We're going to actually go into alternative broadcaster / underground musician, free thinker, all that kind of stuff. My guest will be Renegade Smith, who is the controller, owner, operator there at WARN, Warren Radio. And, he has an interesting array of guests. Of course, we talked to Bobby Biesinger last week, who, with his WINN thing, is also involved with Renegade, and we brought that up that night. We're going to talk a little music, though, with Renegade, and see where this is at. I don't think anybody's actually done a full, just straight-on 2-hour interview with him. It ought to be something of interest. If nothing else, it's definitely different, and you didn't get it on a lot of other shows. So, there you go. Of course, I do appreciate covering stuff like 9/11, and I'm sure we'll touch on that. And usually at some point, if anybody's even remotely familiar with me, they bring up stuff like the JFK assassination. And we'll take calls from listeners in the second hour sometime. Not sure exactly when, but you'll hear me call for it. So take down the number. You can reach me by calling in at 718-717-8296, or of course, if you're on the Charles.Ochelli Skype list, I will add you in. Not right now, because I do want to have a conversation for a little bit, kind of break him down a little bit, give you an idea who this guy is, introduce you to some of his ideas, not only musically, but as a broadcaster, and like I said, as a free thinker and somebody that I consider to be at least cut from similar cloth to myself. Probably not the same thing, but, I think we could get along together, in various sizes, spaces, and conflicts. I think if I fought side by side with this guy for various causes, we could probably get some damage done, and I do believe we would agree on a lot of things. Anyway, Renegade, is that you?
That's me, brother. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing super, man. It was a beautiful day here in PA. I got lathered up in baby oil, put my Speedos on, went for a jog, worked on my tan.
Oh, man. A Speedo to me is more disturbing than a naked man. You know that? I don't know why.
I'm hearing you.
But something about it just seems even more unnatural than, actually just running straight into some naked dude going to get a slice of pizza. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you just saw a naked dude walking in to get a slice of pizza at the restaurant, you'd go, wow, that's weird. But if you see, mostly strange-looking dude in a Speedo, it's, even more disturbing for some reason. I don't know.
Especially when you're sitting at the beach, you're trying to, enjoy the sights and all, and some old dude walks by with, little hanging out. He's packing a Speedo. It's like, really?
Oh,
come on, man.
Hey, and you're close enough to Jersey where you knew about that nude beach that used to be around Sandy Hook, right?
Yeah, there's one also down in Delaware.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, that's... I've often wanted to lay there in the nude under, on the beach, just taking on all the freaking sun's rays and all, but, I don't want to see some of the sights.
Well, yeah, that's the thing, and I thought it would be a great idea. And of course, when as kids, it was one of the rites of passage to go and try and find where this area was, or pieces of private beach where you heard about, naked sunbathing and everything else. And you get all excited thinking you're going to see something great. And really, man, it is just an array of disastrous, piles and bags of flesh, strewn about the sand. And of course, in Jersey, that beach ain't clean to begin with, so it really leaves a stain on your brain. Anyway,
I had something happen a few years ago down for the week, and I love the water, man. I'm out there, you really should attach a fishing line to me when I'm out there, because if you need me, you're going to have to reel me in. I don't come in. I'm out there for hours at a pop, but I love the boogie board. And they like to do it at the end of August because, that's kind of the kickoff of hurricane season. So a lot of times the waves will be nice, and they'll beat you up. And that's how I like it. I like a little, getting beat up a little, you look at the wave and you're like, oh man, I got to go under this thing. I can't go over it, But anyway, I'm out there and I'm kind of floating around. I'm thinking to myself, man, I would hate to take a step down and put my foot on a syringe, with needle. Because they had that problem with all that beach, the ocean dumping, all the needles and stuff washing up on shore, all this medical waste. And so the next day, matter of fact, we left to come back home. Don't you know, the next day after that, they had all this medical waste wash up on shore again. It was just freaking me out that I had that thought, and here it happened. I'm like, how about that? And then I come to find out, because I love sharks. Amazing Freaking Creatures. They just spotted a great white, 16-foot great white, less than a mile off the shore by Cape May. So that's like, yeah, that's pretty cool. I come to find out that like one of the most concentrated populations of great whites are right off the Jersey Shore between Jersey and Massachusetts because of the seal population. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me.
That's what it is. There's a good food supply for them, and sharks are fascinating creatures. Say, listen, before we could just do this for the full 2 hours, probably just go stream of consciousness. But you know what I want to do is try and give people an idea. You know, you never heard of you before, have no idea who the hell you are. Let's start like this. I mean, you were probably a musician before you got into broadcasting. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, because I know what that's like because I used to do that myself. And that's one of those things you start really young. I mean, let's start from there. I mean, let's get into you as a musician, bro. And, you know, talk about, like, how you began. What instrument did you pick up? What were you about? You know, right from there.
I actually put pictures on my page, my Renegade Smith page on Facebook, of me at 2 years old sitting there with a guitar in my hand, you know, and the funny thing is I'm holding it the opposite way. I'm holding it like I'm a lefty when I'm actually a righty. So I've been telling people I've been playing my whole life. But when I really got down into playing, I think I started playing at like 11 years old. I took folk guitar lessons off of a woman named Addie. Learned, you know, all the chord patterns, notes. I used to be able to read music. I can't anymore. I started off with acoustic guitar, of course, and you know, I kept telling my mom, you know, we go to I grew up in a non-denominational church, and they'd have their Sunday worship, and they play music and stuff, and they had one guy up front with that electric guitar, and I just loved the sound of it. I'm like, I kept telling my mom, I want one of them. I want one of them. And she's like, you got to learn to, you got to crawl before you walk. She's like, learn the basics. So I played, acoustic felt like forever, you know?
Right.
And then, in seventh grade, I'm like, I don't know, you know, as a kid, you get to thinking and I kind of like plotting and scheming. I'm like, I'm going to kind of force my hand. I'm going to sign up for jazz band and then turn around and tell my parents I need an electric guitar. So that's what I did.
There you go, because it's a scholastic activity, so they got to support that, right?
Yeah.
As long as you're keeping your grades up and all that kind of stuff. See, I didn't have a normal childhood, so, you know, I had to steal my first guitar, but that's all right.
Hey, at least you got one, right?
Exactly. Well, you know what's interesting? I mean, like, a lot of people don't understand this because they get this idea that you're really just stuck on one sort of form of music or another, and truly, most of the musicians that I've known in my life are not one-dimensional. You know, they always have a whole lot of different roots. You know, a lot of singers started singing in church choirs when they were kids, you know, or they were, you know, getting into wanting to play, you know, like a clarinet or something to begin with, and meanwhile they wind up playing drums because somebody just needed a drummer and they could get a hold of a drum set cheap. Next thing you know, a decade later, they're a full-fledged, you know, banging drummer of all sorts and things like that, you know. But as a musician,
I can play drums. Love the drums. I just never had a set.
Right. Yeah.
Love them.
I'm like that too. I can play a little bit, not really great, but I can maintain. And but I never had my own kit. Never. You know. I wound up playing bass. Wound up playing bass more than guitar because I just wasn't that good with the guitar. But I could keep a good rhythm going, and I had, you know, interesting ways of looking at how to keep the rhythm section together. You know, when you're talking about that sort of reduction where you're just using a bass guitar for your bass section, you know, in music. So, you know,
but you mentioned the bass. It's pretty funny. One night, me and my buddy Roger. Now he was a drummer. And, you know, we were in the process of putting together a band. Well, we went out to this club one night and over in Lansdale. It's called Riccardi's, and they had open mic night. And they had all these bands coming in. I remember the one group, I forget the name of them, a bunch of old heads. And they play that funky music, White Boy. But I'm going to tell you something. They rocked that song, man. I was like, dang, you know, and people were kind of moving and grooving here and there and all. And they had an in-house bass guitar and an in-house drum set. So, you know, you'd use those, and then if any guitars came in, you know, if a band came in to play, they'd bring their guitars and all, and they had a microphone. So I looked at Roger, I go, dude, I can blow it up on the bass. I go, let's go. So me and him went up there, two-piece band. I was playing bass, he was playing drums, and we tore that place apart. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. And this woman comes up to me, she's like, "You go, white boy." She's like, I listen to all these bands, just two of you make sound like that. She's like, "You got me up and dancing." And her boyfriend's like just sitting there with his head down, like, oh man, she was complimenting and, asking all these questions and all. But it was really cool to just take a bass guitar, him on the drums, and we just grooved that place, man. It was fun. It was awesome.
Oh yeah, well the most fun stuff is always like the super minimum, the most fun I ever had, instruments. The least amount of instrumentation was a semi-acoustic guitar plugged into like one of those little gorilla amps.
Right. Yeah. I remember those.
and a harmonica, man. Like sitting there blowing harp and just playing that thing. So you had this really bright, serious guitar sound coming out of that cheap little amp, and just blowing that harp like mad. Not even singing or nothing, just grooving with it.
Right.
And I did that in a coffee house, man.
Nice.
And that was just like, it was just fun. And it just kind of came up where it was like, well, we got nothing else to do. We actually don't have any more money for coffee anyway because it's overpriced. And let's just
$100 coffee.
Yeah, you know how it is, right? It was one of those independent joints, but you go in there and they're like, "Would you like the Siamese, twin shaved beans and all that, whatever the hell."
All these fancy words when it all comes down to it, it's just freaking coffee.
Right.
Give me a coffee, man. Cream and sugar, I'm happy.
Yeah, exactly.
Pimp out my coffee.
Right, and then they got to give you, rose petals that you got to dip in it for 30 seconds or whatever, let it steep.
Right.
It's like, come on, dude. It
brings out the essence.
Yeah.
The aromatherapy.
Right. But anyway, so you got into music at a young age, and you're doing that. Now, you weren't, like, awake right away, right?
No.
I mean, you weren't, like, aware of the massive agenda sort of pitted against humanity early on. What kind of music did you sort of gravitate to, or did you just, go all over the map, or did you go for?
It was kind of funny because now remember I was taking lessons from a woman who played folk guitar, an older woman, and I got that electric guitar finally, and I joined up with jazz band, and that's a whole. I mean, when you go from acoustic to electric, it's a whole different entity. I mean, you get back, feedback. You can hear every mistake, and you got to learn to play really clean, which is. Was a whole new thing. So I wish we had YouTube back then because I would have been YouTubing the how-to videos like I do now, like how to play blues guitar, and I'll put my phone in my lap and I'll play my acoustic and learn how to play blues guitar. And blues is pretty much one of the roots of rock and roll anyway, which was where I started. So I started playing along with Motley Crue, Judas Priest. I loved Rat, Joe Satriani. He taught Kirk Hammett. He was just an amazing guitarist, and I would sit there and get the radio going, get in tune with Metallica or whatever, and just start playing along. And I actually started getting better than my teacher in the aspect of where I wanted to play. She didn't play rock and roll, she didn't play metal, she was a folk guitar. So I ended up, telling my parents I don't want to do this anymore. I'm just going to teach myself, and that's what I did. So, a lot of my big influences back then were like ZZ Top. Motley Crue was a huge one. I loved freaking Mick Mars. So I was all into all that stuff, Great White, and I actually got my neighbor to get a bass. He bought a bass, and we had his drummer named Harry, who played in the jazz band with me. And he, Butch is all afraid to call him up. I'm like, dude, look his number up, I'll call him. So I ended up calling him. We ended up hooking up with him, and it was just kind of like a little stupid garage band, but it was still like the beginnings of it and all. And I played with a whole bunch of different people. And then in 1996, I was at a music shop, and I walked in, and it was just funny because how like you can make like a flyer, and it'll say looking for a guitarist, able to play leads, and then they listed like their influences. Of course, as I got older, my influences changed. I heard Pantera, and I was just like, that was it.
Oh,
like, I was done with the 80s music. I was done with these metal bands. Like, I wanted to see this hardcore stuff. Then in 1994, Korn came along, Huge influence on my playing.
Well, let me ask you
Dimebag
this real
Darrell.
quick. How old are you actually? Because you know what, I never even considered this before. Because I've been talking to you, on different shows and been around you and stuff, and I never even gave it a consideration how old you are.
Believe this, I am older than leap year.
Well, so am I. But I mean, because
41, brother. Just turned 41.
Okay, I am still older than you.
I remember hearing you say it last night. Yeah, you can hear some of my influences, man, because it kind of shows your age a little bit.
Well, yeah, I was
being
thinking
a
to
child of the
myself.
80s.
Yeah, I'm thinking to myself, actually, wait a minute, this guy's got to be right near my age because
Right.
that's the same thing I was doing, man. I was definitely all about the Shout at the Devil album, and
Oh, yeah.
and even
Yes.
and you want to get real weird, man. Twisted Sister was some pretty
Yeah.
cool stuff.
What do you want to do with your life? I want to rock.
Rock. Dun, 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 dun.
Freaking, that's a great album right there. That when he came along with his movie Strange Lands, and they brought in the whole Captain Howdy thing, that was his internet name, and that movie blew my freaking mind. I was like, wow.
Yeah. And it's like it all started with that that song that's on that album too, which
Right.
wasn't really even it wasn't the best song on the album. It wasn't the creepy thing. As a matter of fact, if there was something that was going to evoke like a weird sort of twisted emotional reaction, it would have been something like either Burn in Hell or
Right.
Street Justice or Street Justice. You remember that one? Which, right, something like that might have got you, or and of course the big hit from that was We're Not Gonna Take It.
Take it down. You know what's funny? My mom, I ended up joining this. Remember the CD clubs where you pay like a penny and you could get 20 CDs, whatever. I ended up joining that. Oh, and one of the real huge. To this day, I still listen to him. Dokken. George Lynch is an amazing guitarist, and I would love to get him on one of my songs. And there's one more, Rex Carroll of White Cross. He was actually a Christian metal group. That guy hangs with everybody that we've been mentioning: George Lynch, Warren DeMartini, Rat, and all those other groups. He was one of. I actually reached out to him recently. Would love to get him to do a solo on one of my songs. But my mom used to take CDs from me. Like if I left one sitting out, she would take it, and I would never get it back. This is satanic music. You can't be listening to it. You can't be putting this junk in your head. It's funny because it clicked years later, You were asking me about what, when I finally woke up. But I was saying, I went to this music store and it had a flyer hanging there. And it was a piece of paper. And at the bottom, they wrote sideways and made these, little tabs that you could pull off with the number to call.
Yeah, for the youngins out there, this is how we used to actually, network with each other. We would go around to music stores tacking up. I'm looking for, a drummer. I'm looking for a bass player, and you'd have to leave your phone number. But what you did is you made it like a fringe on the bottom so that people could pull that little piece of paper away and it would
have your
be
number.
and just automatically have your number. It was pretty funny because everything from a magic marker to, a couple of people had those slick, dot matrix printers, right?
Yeah, this was done on you could tell he wrote it in marker, then I guess it posted up on multiple occasions. I walk in there and pull off the one tab, right? And I'm looking at this little thing. I'm like, that's very small. I might lose that. And I'm looking at this thing again. I'm like, this kind of sounds like a band I've been looking for. I took the whole flyer, stuck it in my pocket, and walked away. But I ended up calling them up. It was really cool because I really got along with these guys. I still talk to them to this day. I went in there to first check them out. And their guitarist was so freaking nervous because I kind of brought a little posse with me. But, he's playing, he breaks a string. So I'll give you one. I always had extra strings on me somewhere. So I went out to my Trans Am, I pull out a freaking string. I give it to him. He's tuning. He's all nervous. He starts playing. He tunes it again. He breaks the string. The brand new one I just gave him. I'm like, really, dude? I got one more. I'm like, don't break this one. So I gave him, another string. He ends up freaking, they end up playing. I end up hearing him. I'm like, you guys are great and all, blah, blah, blah. So I went back the next night and I said, I don't want no one playing. I don't want no guitars playing with me. I'm like, give me the drums, give me the bass, let's go. I freaking blew. These guys were just blown away, man. I was freaking out. They had the whole house was like a house party, and they came, I guess, to listen to me try out. And as soon as I got done, this dude named Kirby, he looks over at Monty, he goes, well, Peacock's out of here. That's the guitarist. And I'm like thinking, yeah, I want him going too. So anyway, I ended up getting with these guys. We started, touring the area in Philly and all. In 2001, we were ranked 8 out of the top 10 bands in the tri-state area. And I was the only political voice in there. Chuck, I was the only guy in there. Like, I wrote a song called Meat. The chorus went, the source of your protein, we're your piece of meat, basically talking about the government.
Mm-hmm.
And I did some other ones, like Power the Fall. That was about, powering the movement to take down this government. And I was, political.
You know what's weird is that actually it's kind of funny because you were in a similar area to me. Did you ever get the Aquarian Weekly or the East Coast Rocker magazines?
Oh, yes, Rocker. Yes, I did see that one.
Okay, see, because I used to, you might have read articles. If you actually read the thing, you might have read articles or ads for bands or whatever that
right.
I was in. And but during the same time as me, like when Pantera did their last club tour, I was one of their opening acts. Open for I was one of the local supporters all the time. So like Nuclear Assault, MOD, and then later on like Suffocation and Cannibal Corpse and all those bands would come through, and in the same scene, in a similar scene at that time was actually way earlier when I first started was a band called Xyrus. And that band featured a guy whose name you know now, Zach Wilde.
Yes.
Right? So
he is insane on the guitar.
Exactly. And he was from the same scene. And we had, a lot of other interesting guys that came out of that scene. But he would be like one of the best known outside of, John Bon Jovi, who I can't stand. But
right. Well, I'll tell you, they were their first album. I thought was pretty cool. There's a lot of memories attached to that album. I can't knock them. I know they're not the heavy stuff, which we kind of like, but they're good, man. I can't take away anything from them. I'm just not a supporter.
You know what it was? It was just that these guys became so arrogant so fast, and they had all these wild demands. I mean, I was headlining Club Benet and stuff like that, a little bit after them. And it was just weird to see that those guys made it when there were so many other bands in that area, like hugely talented people that
right.
just didn't get the bite. You know what I mean? But the thing is, it's kind of interesting to me that you and I were almost in the same scene. I mean, I used to go to Pennsylvania and play every once in a while. I used to play at a place called the Cell Block every now and then.
Yeah, yes, I heard of that place.
Yep. There was various clubs in Philadelphia. One of them had a crocodile as on their sign. I can't remember.
Crocodile Rock.
There you go. These were the places that I would go. And sometimes, we would go to New York or we'd go to Connecticut or even occasionally down to Delaware or whatever. And, a lot of us trying to work our way into the Milwaukee Metal Fest back then,
Nice.
And matter of fact, I was part of the first Metal Fest in New Jersey in '94 at the Count Basie Theater, and they totally banned every heavy metal show from ever playing there again, including canceling the incarnation of Black Sabbath that was supposed to go there. Tony Martin's Black Sabbath, so not really Black Sabbath, but anyway, you know what I'm talking about.
It's funny you mentioned about canceling. The first show we played at was at the Blair Mill Mall, and somehow somebody from this group called Surge who was actually friends on my old band was called FTE, Front Toward Enemy, and we did put out an album, and we had the lead singer Craig from Surge come in and lay down some vocals and some background effects. They somehow got the one of the security guards or the janitors of the mall to be able to let us come in with a whole bunch of other bands and do a show. So there was 11 bands that day. Well, here it turns around that that mall got overran by people. My gosh, we had so many freaking compliments too. I mean, the one big band that was supposed to be there was Decipher.
Oh yeah.
And they were gods in their own mind, and we had people coming up to us. They're like, how many shows you guys done? I had a guy, an older gentleman, come up to me, and he was in a Beatles tribute band. He's like, you guys are the best band up there so far. He's like, your music is intricate, technical, with nice melodies, but yet you have that heaviness to you. And he's like, keep it up. He was blown away that was our first show. But the guy who left it happen got fired, and they said we will never again let bands play in this mall. I mean, there was people everywhere. There was nowhere in that mall you could have gone. I played through a full stack Marshall. This thing is sick. It's just insanely loud. It's not like loud like you want to cover your ears. This thing will literally push you across the room. Like the sound, the air that it moves in the room is just ungodly. It's like, what the heck? It's like a freight train coming through, you know?
Right.
So for that show, I actually broke down. I just used one of the the cabinets, one of the 410 cabinets, and it was still like people were saying like you could hear like you could be at the one end of the mall and you could like hear everything going on. So this guy gets fired. I felt so bad for the guy.
Oh,
he's out there trying to support the community and the local bands, and he got fired. I was like, wow.
Yeah, that, and you know, and then we wondered why, you know, we'd get relegated to places like, you know, T-Birds and, you know, like where you know, if it rains, you got buckets collecting what's coming through the ceiling,
right?
You know, or the legendary Stone Pony that they couldn't even afford to put in their damn sprinkler systems, you know, stuff like that. I mean, I played that place a lot. Callers, I want you to hold off until the second hour, okay? Because here they come anyway. All right, well, we'll leave them off for now because you know, we're in the midst of doing our thing here. So let's see.
They can still hear the show, right?
Oh yeah, no, they can listen on the you know, through the web link and all that, you know, or through their or through their TuneIn apps and all that kind of stuff. So they don't actually have to call in to hear the show, but if they call in, they're right on the air. So, but anyway, yeah, guys, just hold off a little bit, and we'll get into that in the second hour because we haven't even touched upon what it is that you're doing nowadays. We're just talking about the evolution of your music. And, of course, before we get into what you're doing nowadays, I want to talk about, you know, how that started to change because the stuff you're doing now is probably not even really recognizable, except probably in a very basic sort of way, you know, from what you started out with. I mean, I went all over the map, and if I was doing music today, I'd still be doing heavy music. But, you know, the lyrical content, the force of the message would be an entirely different thing. I guarantee that, you know, and I'm sure that, you know, you could give us an idea what it was like, you know, when you started to become aware, you know.
It drives you nuts.
Yeah, it starts to make you crazy. And, of course, if you're creative and you're trying to be a wordsmith and also a musician, because, you know, you can be a poet without putting it to a rhythm, you know what I'm saying, or giving it melody.
Exactly.
But you want to do both, so you know it becomes intensely emotional, even more so because you're a musician and you have all these dimensions and all these other things you can do, and of course, you know there's other things that are like extra musical things that can go on, like sampling, and you know and sounds that aren't necessarily from instruments and things like that, that you can add into.
Yeah, I use a lot of that.
And I know, and that's what I was going to say is I know in a lot of your music nowadays, there's a lot of that kind of production that goes on. So obviously there was a change from, you know, just the slam and driving riffs and beats and, you know, trying to maintain like, you know, something that had a heavy kind of kick to it, and then switching to this more sophisticated kind of integrated sound, you know. So,
yeah, I was actually, you know, in 2000, you know, before 9/11, this is pre 9/11, I approached these guys and I said, listen, man, I want to go in a different direction here. I'm like, they want to see, this is when Slipknot came out, and they wanted to get heavier and heavier. I said, listen, there's a limited market. I'm like, do you want to get known? Do you want, you know, to play for bigger crowds? I'm like, we've got to, like, start doing other forms of music. Like, you know, we can do remakes of some great 80s hits. I'm like, you know, we got to stop this whole, just everything just, blow your head off with, you know, how much distortion and how loud we can be in the bass, because, you know, rolling through you. So I ended up telling me, I'm out. I'm done. So I quit. And they tried getting hold of me, and, you know, they tried replacing me, which you cannot do. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but I got my style. And that is what it is. Like, they couldn't even, you know, mimic what I was. I used to play with a thumb ring, and I would tap it all over the strings. It's like, you hear some of the sounds I was doing. They're like, you know, how do you, I had people coming up after our shows, like other bands. How do you do that? How do you get the sound? We thought you were playing a 7-string guitar. Like, they would come up with the questions. And so anyway, I walked, man. And then 9/11 happens.
Right. Well, and I even used to use a slide every now and then, even though I was playing metal stuff. You know, actually,
I do it now.
Old school tube slide. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like an old Delta blues kind of thing, but you can take it in all sorts of directions, man.
I used a mic stand one time for a guitar slide. Because I didn't. I just wanted to, you know, when you're playing, you know, you kind of, something takes over you. And I used to see like images and colors and all sorts of weird stuff. Like people were like, "Yeah, you know, you see me there? We're in the front row. You know, we were there to check you out." And I'm like, "No, I don't remember seeing you because I remember seeing people, but I wouldn't see faces. I would zone out." Matter of fact, Chuck, when we would get done doing shows, it took me 20 minutes, if not more, to actually come back down to reality to be able to talk again. And there's a couple people real close to me that know my story about that. Like, I didn't like that feeling. It's like something would take over me, and I would lose all aspects of, you know, what was considered consciousness. And we'd get done playing these shows, and I just wouldn't talk. I would actually kind of walk away and, like, really try to bring myself back. It was really weird. It took my girl to actually tell me, she's like, "You change when you go on stage." She's like, "Your face changes." She's like, "There's something that comes over you." And then she's like, "And then you can't talk to nobody." She's like, "It's like you go to talk to you, and you sound like you're drunk. You mumble." And it was really strange. But anyway, I don't want to go on about that, man.
I used to literally physically shake for a while after I came off stage because it was like going into a trance for me.
Exactly.
And I couldn't even account for, like, people would say, "Why'd you do this?" or "Why'd you do that?" while you were on stage, especially when I was a singer, because that freed me up, you know, to be able to move around. I mean, I used to be the guy who would actually dive into the crowd and, you know, and get into the mosh pit and, you know, stuff like that. And I did sort of like, and I found out later that, you know, Stiv Bators was big on it, but the whole, like, I would strangle myself with the mic cable. I mean, all kinds of weird stuff I did. You know, and the thing is, it wasn't like I was doing it and thinking about it for effect or anything else. It was just something would click, and then boom, that's just the way it came out. You know,
right?
And so I totally understand that. But when you're becoming aware of all this stuff, and of course, in the year 2000, you had already seen, you know, by that time, heavier acts like, say, a Marilyn Manson had already
he was out there.
grabbed up something like "Sweet Dreams" and was taking like an old 80s staple and redoing
the Eurythmics.
Yeah, the Eurythmics, exactly. And a lot of other heavy bands had done stuff like that. I mean, Korn had done Lowrider, I think, at that point. You know, a lot of weird stuff like that where it was like they were taking 70s and 80s songs and really
redoing them and
flipping them around and making them something new. And
I'm actually, Chuck, I'm actually working on, I was just telling Lee Pierre this, I might be doing Enjoy the Silence by Depeche Mode. I was thinking about doing that, but I think I can funk that one out. It was that one or a Duran Duran song, like, you know, the timeless 80s classics, like, they were really good.
What do you mean, like Hungry Like the Wolf, but like a slamming version?
No, I was actually thinking of Come Undone, believe it or not, with that female vocalist, and I'm thinking Lady Maverick doing the backups to cover the female part in that. So we'll see what happens.
That's an interesting idea, man. I was just picturing that in my head. Yeah, that's pretty cool. I think that's a good idea.
It's funny though, like, you know, the music scene, you know, how it all changed. You know, the grunge thing came out in the '90s and all, and you know, the new metal, which would be like, you know, your Korn, your Linkin Park, the Limp Bizkit and stuff like that.
Well, the business
they came out and
the business went into upheaval. I mean, look, the artistic changes were always going to happen, right? And then what happens is the corporate people get a hold of it, and then they oversaturate the market with the crap, and then everybody gets sick of it, so then they have to go and get the next new thing. I mean, that's really what happened, is that the hair got too big, the makeup got too big, you know, the sleaze rock turned into glam rock, turned into what the hell is going on here? So a guy that comes out with a flannel shirt on, you know, just like slamming away on the guitar and going back to those punk roots that had been sort of left languishing since the 70s, you know, the days of the Sex Pistols and stuff like that. I mean, of course, the Dead Kennedys were going on and things like that, but realistically, as far as the market was concerned, there wasn't a huge market for punk and all that at that point. So these guys were able to seize on that and also cross it into, you know, we still want a heavy kind of metal sound. So boom, you know, and then everybody from Seattle all of a sudden got a contract, you know.
And you know, and there's some good music that came out then. I mean, I love Soundgarden. Those guys were incredible. And you know, I might take heat on this one. I really don't care. Smashing Pumpkins. They did some good music. I can't take nothing away from them. The song, what is it called? Zero? Love that tune, man.
Everything from Mother Love Bone to my favorite Seattle band would be Alice in Chains. But,
heck yeah. You can't touch them.
No.
You cannot touch them.
Amazing
Yeah.
stuff. And whether it was unplugged or it was straight up, just banging it out, either way, just so cool because of those like eerie sort of harmonies and like
Yeah, it gets into you.
the
It gets
mood.
into you.
Yeah, like that really moody, like seriously, like when he's doing Angry Chair, it's like
Right.
you're feeling that sway, and like when he starts
I was,
doing the thing about sick man and all that stuff and being
yeah.
like dope sick, it's like you can almost feel that this guy is like he's not just telling you about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
He's
his voice gets into you.
yeah,
I
exactly.
mean, it's just like STP. I love that band too. I mean, they put out some great freaking music. And this is the thing. I also liked hip hop. I liked rap back then. Gangster rap. I was listening to Public Enemy and Tongue Twister and all this other stuff. It was what was really cool though was not 9/11, but having 9/11 happen because it woke up a lot of people, and people started going, "What the heck is going on? What is up with WT7? Why did that fall 5 hours later from a one-floor fire? It was perfectly level. We could have put a wine glass on top and not lost a freaking drop. It just perfect controlled demolition, just like everything else." And I've asked so many people, what woke you up? 9/11 did. I'm like, hey, thanks, government. You're waking up a nation through your basically huge blood sacrifice, ritualistic murder, and all of it. We know what happened afterwards. The Patriot Act, the NDAA, like all this stuff came out to steal our freedoms away. And guess what? It was all about, hey, do you want more security? Yeah, we're scared. Okay, well, great. Well, here's your security. Thank you for some of your freedoms.
Yeah,
you
right.
can't have it. You can't have it that way. You cannot trade freedom for security. Think about it like this. When you look at a prison system, what is maximum security? You got no freedom.
Right. No, that is precisely right. And just like when they talk about, if a firefighter fights fire, and what does a freedom fighter fight? Okay, you know what I mean. And but everything is this double speak and always counterintuitive to itself. That's the way that stuff all works, which is interesting because again with the music and here's where I'm going to leave the music conversation because I love hip hop too, but you had stuff like like the Dr. Dre's and
Right.
and like
NWA.
all the guys and NWA and the guys in New York and all that stuff. And don't get me wrong, love Public Enemy. You know what I mean? Love stuff by a lot of those West Coast guys too. Enjoyed Tupac, enjoyed Cypress Hill, enjoyed.
Yeah, I love Cypress, man. I love seeing those guys get together with like Rage Against the Machine and do that. Yeah, some music with them. That was awesome.
Oh yeah.
Rage. Okay, here we go. Rage Against the Machine, when they came on the scene, man, they made an impact. Freaking loved their music. Loved every ounce of their freaking music. It was so different and so politically driven. Loved it.
And it was straight up slamming funky stuff.
Oh yeah.
Man. It wasn't like it was just simple. It wasn't just a rap beat. Oh hell no. Plus, taking a look at those lyrics now,
Yeah.
it seemed like it was ahead of my time anyway. You know what I'm
like
saying?
last night, Chuck. Like last night, I mentioned about Queensryche. You listen. I don't know if you might have dropped off by then on the show last night, Friday Night Super Show. I had mentioned that guy Matthew or whoever called in, and I guess we were talking about music and all. And I had mentioned, I'm like, it's funny because when you're in your youth, you're young, and you're a teen, and you're listening to this music, it's like it goes over your head. Like the message is like there, but you don't hear it. And then it takes you actually, as you mature in life and, you get in your 30s maybe, or maybe even late 20s, whatever, or your 40s or your 50s, and you go back and revisit those days of your youth, and you start listening to some of the music you haven't heard in years, it's funny what you hear. Because I started listening to Queensryche, and then I hear Revolution Calling. I actually listened and heard it. Like, you can listen to something, but are you hearing it? That's the whole thing. I heard it, and then Empire. The song Empire, I'm like, whoa, these guys were like trying to wake us up back in the early 90s, late 80s with their music. I'm like, how many more bands were doing this and I didn't catch it. I didn't hear it. I listened to it, but I didn't hear it.
I'll give you one that, of course, I hate to do this because, Panic Attack Jones likes them and all, but I can't help myself is Megadeth, man. If you listen back to some of their stuff, and not even the big name stuff that everybody obviously points to, like Holy Wars and Peace Cells and all that stuff, but I mean,
Symphony of Destruction, brother. Listen to that song.
No, Symphony is cool, but if you listen to stuff like Captive Honor, like Train of Consequence, all that other stuff that was going on, like the stuff that didn't necessarily kind of make it to even the metal airplay lists. There's a lot of really significant things going on in Mustaine's lyrics, which, I hate to say it, because again, Panic Attack Jones and Dave Mustaine was an arrogant guy when I ran across him. So, not exactly a big thrill. And I guess he had a right to be bitter since, he lost his spot with Metallica and all, but.
Oh, well, he went back and whooped their butts, man. From what I understand, what I read, he went back in and beat them all. He beat them all down. Give me my stuff. Let me get out of here. Take that.
Yeah, you notice that Lars, the mouthpiece Ulrich, never tells that part of the story, but.
Right.
But anyway, look. So now we'll progress from that because, of course, you're still doing music now, and we'll finish out our talk about that. But here's the thing. So you started coming around to these ideas around the year 2000, just before 9/11 hit.
Yep.
Well, what was it? What was it that grabbed you? I mean, some people will say, well, you know what? I just started realizing that, through the taxes, or because I started to see that no matter who ended up in office, nothing would change. I mean, what was it that grabbed you to start with?
All right. I was part of the left-right paradigm. I played into it totally. I was what I considered a card-carrying Republican and a conservative. Okay, that's how I was. I voted all the time. I believed what I was seeing when it came to the puppet show. I really thought that these presidents had power, and them and their people actually were the ones you get a hold of to make things change. I didn't have any idea about the Illuminati. I had no idea about the shadow government. I had no idea about this until 9/11 happened. I was handed, shortly after that, which was really cool, Debbie Lewis and I think Michael Lewis is her husband, from Lewis Films. They did, like, In Plain Sight, peddling the influence or something like that. Mm. But I had a whole bunch of CDs handed to me, DVDs, DVDs. One of them was Alex Jones' Terror Storm. Mm-hmm. The other one was In Plain Sight. There was another one called The Nightmare in Dreams, which was about the Illuminati. And then there was two more, Loose Change 1 and Loose Change 2. So I get a hold of these, and the guy at work that handed them to me, I looked at him. He handed them to me. I'm holding these things. And I looked at him. I go, what is this? He goes, you need to watch these. I go, what do you mean I need to watch these? I'm like, listen to me, man. I know you do the whole Democrat thing and, hey, Al Gore. I'm like, I'm not going to sit here and listen to Bush bashing. I'm like, it is what it is. He's like, this has nothing to do with Bush. Mm-hmm. He looks at me, and this is one of my really good buddies, and he looks at me straight up, and I can see the look on his face. He goes, there's a bigger problem here. Mm-hmm. I'm like, oh, okay. So I brought all these DVDs home. Well, I started with Terror Storm, and I had to stop with that one because I broke the TV remote off the television. I got so mad when they were talking about the Gulf of Tonkin, I actually stood up. I don't know what came over me. It was just anger. I stood up and whipped the TV remote at the freaking TV, and it shattered everywhere. I was so mad. But why was I mad? This is the thing. Why do you get mad? Why do people get upset? Because you've been freaking lied to. You've been led on to believe this one thing. Well, this one thing is attached to many freaking things. So you start going, well, what about this? And what about that? And what about this? And what about that? It drives you nuts. And then you feel so betrayed. Hence my song Betrayal, one of my newest releases. And I was so pissed off. And I'm sorry about saying that, but it's the facts. I was mad. No, I ended up getting a new remote, and I finished watching all these, and then I'm like, well, who's this Illuminati clowns? Who are these idiots? So I started digging into them. And from there on, I just started really checking things out online, doing a lot of research. And shortly after that, I renounced my part in the left-right paradigm. Right. I am now a free, independent thinker, and I want no parts of it. And I actually now push forward to wake people up to that. But in, I think, 2008, 2009, finally, with my left arm being twisted, I got on Facebook.
Well, I'll tell you what. Before that, though, the thing is, you got to put it in context, right? Our generation, our age group, right, was really, we were steeped in the whole Vietnam experience because
Right.
because it was our parents, our uncles, our
Mm-hmm.
people that were that were basically forgotten. They used to call it the Vietnam guilt syndrome. So this is what touched it off for you. This is part of what touched it off for me was understanding that, and this is how I got into the JFK thing too, was realizing that the government had lied to me, not only about JFK, but about my own father, his service in the Vietnam, all these other guys, all these other families haven't been touched, destroyed. Either they got somebody back who wasn't themselves or whatever else. And what
Right.
was the purpose behind it? It accomplished nothing. So there was that. But then you come to find out that not only did you accomplish nothing, but it was all started for nothing.
There's a bunch of people got killed for nothing at all.
Right.
Because
Exactly.
every war is the same way. Every war.
Oh yeah. Well, eventually you come to that conclusion. But the thing is that for you and I to personalize that, it made sense not because we had served, but because we were living with the repercussions from all that. You know what I mean? So it makes perfect sense that that's what grabbed you. Now, you're going back to 2008. That's pretty funny because you're paralleling me. About 2007, 2008, I had my arm twisted to get onto Facebook because this is going to be the next big thing. And it was just like, you can find people from your past. That was the big hook.
Exactly.
Right.
Yep. Find your old schoolmates, find your old buddies, because this guy's over in East Jabip and you haven't seen him in years and everyone's posting pictures and all. And I'm like, this is stupid.
Yeah, and then of course the whole sort of culture of going there and trying to like cheat on your spouse became part of the equation. That was the big thing for a while. Remember, like Facebook was like, oh well, Facebook is ruining my marriage on the next Oprah. Like come on.
Well, it was funny because right then and there, right before I got on Facebook, I had people telling me, listen, Renegade, you gotta do another album. You have to do a solo album. I love my acoustic, brother. I have a Taylor GS. I spent close to $3,000 on this guitar. This thing sounds like I'm playing a piano. It's amazing. And I love whipping on it. I love it. I was just playing it today. It's so beautiful here. So I started playing that and yesterday. Anyway, so I had all these people tell me, do an acoustic album. And then, some of the girls that I know were like, do a chick album. You gotta do a chick album, There's so many girls out there that love this kind of music that you play and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, all right, I'll do it. So I started focusing on that. And so I really got on Facebook and started seeing, like, what started was meeting my buddy Roberto. It was funny how we reached out. It was over the conversation about the dollar bill and the symbolisms on it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I meet all these other people, James Squire, one of the guys running the Genesis Awakening, we'll get into what happened with my network and what's coming in the future. But anyway, I start talking to all these people and seeing all these people and seeing what they're posting, and I'm just like getting madder by the day. I'm like, I can't do a freaking chick album. You gotta be kidding me. I'm like, I gotta use my God-given talent and abilities to wake people up. I've got to make a difference. There's no one in the mainstream music industry that's doing it. I gotta freaking do it. And so I went on this whole just rampage where I started writing music, and I was going to make an album, a wake-up album, a truth album, a freedom, liberty album, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
My album, Refusing to Remain Silent, will be out July 4th, and it is a compilation not only of the different styles I like, from metal to hip-hop to rock and roll to acoustic, but also the level of truth. I mean, all the way through it, from MK Ultra to 9/11. Actually, no, not 9/11. I have not spoken about that one yet. But MK Ultra to the Police State, to Love. I mix it up a little bit, Chuck. I have to. You have to mix it up. I don't want to kill people with negative all the time. I got to put a little bit of something in there. I got to go a little mainstream to pull some people in. It's like fishing.
Well,
throw that line in the water.
You know what?
Bring them in.
No. You don't need to make that excuse at all, man. You know what it is? It's about life, and it's about the truth.
Right.
And you know what? Life has a whole lot of shades to it. You know what I mean?
Very true.
It's not necessarily all about the news feed. There's also the personal interactions. So there ain't nothing wrong with that, man. You don't got to make an excuse for putting a love song in there. Love is part of what could actually save the world, man.
Yes. Very
bottom
true.
line. So it's just as important as the false flags. It's just as important as the corruption. It's just as important as all the negative stuff. So you don't need to make an excuse for that, brother. Don't even bother with that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So yeah, so that's right, and I kind of had a problem with that though. You got to understand that because we here at the coalition, we like to put it out there, and I'm going to put it to you this way. I was just there just tonight in a store, and I was buying a pack of gum, and I looked down and they're selling these fig bars, and right on the side of the fig bar said non-GMO project. It had the whole non-GMO symbol there, and I looked at the guy standing there, and he's Indian. I said, "Do you know what this is?" He goes, "No." And I'm cool with this guy. He knows me. We talk all the time. And I said, "This is the non-GMO project." He goes, "Well, what is that?" I go, "GMO means genetically modified organism. It comes from a company called Monsanto." He goes, "Hold on. I want to write this down." I said, "Research the company Monsanto." I said, "Well, let me ask you one question. Does genetically modified organism sound tasty to you?" He goes, "No." But this is how I am, Chuck. I cannot shut my mouth. I love like prowling the supermarkets. Like I'll come up next to someone, like look down in their cart and go, "Oh, you're gonna buy that? Really? Do you know what's in this stuff? Do you know what aspartame does to you?" And like it's a great opener because you can like lead them. I don't try to blow their heads off with information all at once, but it's a great way to get in and give them something, plant the seed, and give them something to think about.
Well, plus it's something everybody can relate to because we all got to eat.
Right.
It's a universal thing, just like water is a universal topic, whether you understand that or not. It's like, oh, I just drink soda. Yeah, like there's no water in that, Chief.
Yeah, it's absent of water. You don't need that fluoride. Soda has no fluoride in it.
No, it doesn't, But see, that's the thing, though, right? And I do want to get into the radio network because you had a name change on that, too. Because for a while you were the Worldwide Resistance, something like
radio.
that. And that all of a sudden became Warn, which, of course, is just like a lot of these other networks where you have, you have the one night, you have, one show every night of the week and this kind of thing. And you do that through Blog Talk and all that. But you're a little different, first of all. And I did mention at the beginning that Bobby Biesinger, who was a guest on here last week, is part of that as well.
Right.
I didn't plan it that way, but it was just sort of like I threw it out to you guys on the coalition thing. I said, hey, does anybody want to come on the show? Every once in a while I just go, look, I'll give you guys an open night to talk about who you are and put yourselves out to, a different audience, because I've got some different listeners from you guys. So this is what we do, and that's the thing, explain to me, first of all, because I know you were kind of like hanging around with the guys from Truth Emerges and
still do.
and NWO Truth Radio. I know you still do, but I'm saying you were just sort of like a caller, it seemed like to me, to them, and they got to know your music. I mean, I don't know how deep you go with those guys exactly.
Pretty deep.
But,
it was pretty cool. It all started with Freedomizer. Austin Thomas, we call him the Godfather, the Godfather of Blog Talk. I've known him for years. I've known him for freaking years. Matter of fact, since 2009, I started a music page called Independent Musicians Against the New World Order.
Okay.
There's really something I want to talk more about, being introduced to these other musicians that are actually fighting the fight. But we'll get into that later. But so anyway, I get on Austin's show, and him and Liberty Lisa, Guerrilla Radio, and I'm like, yeah, this is really cool, man. And it's really nice to actually be able to vent, because you don't have to go and blow friends away by posting, like, what's really going on in the world. Like, with 9/11, they get in arguments with them, and they're like, you've known them your whole life, now all of a sudden they want nothing to do with you anymore. Because you spoke your mind, and it went against their belief system. Good riddance to you, If you're that much of a baby, I guess I didn't use in my life. But anyway.
Yeah, if you upset their world, if you upset their worldview, you're worthy of being flamed on the online, and then, but they got to turn their back on you. So,
Yeah, it's really immature. To be quite honest with you, if you can't take someone's opinion to heart and give them that respect, because hey, guess what? First Amendment rights. We have a freedom of speech. You do have a freedom of opinion here, thus far. But anyway, listening to Guerrilla Radio with Freedomizer, and I was like, yeah, this is great. What's that? I'm sorry.
No, I was saying so far we do. As it stands, it's still in the books, but who knows what's coming next.
It's still up to the will and opinions of the oligarchs, but I'm going to listen to that crap. Like, someone's going to freaking dictate to me what I can and can't do. You got to be kidding me.
Right.
So anyway, I get on there. I called into a couple of shows, and I was really honored because Austin got a hold of me. He's like, hey, I need an intro. And he told me what he wanted, and he actually wanted me to, like, you know, take the X-Files and use, like, that thing. I go, screw that, man. I'm like, I'm going to give you an intro that's exclusive to you. And when them people, your listeners, hear your intro, they know what's coming. I did Unraveling the Matrix intro, and that's probably one of my favorites, because it was my first. And from there out, it was also, you know, I got to do intros for NW Truth Radio, the Dashboard Outlaws, Earl Conlon, Truth Exposition Show with Val Ann. I did her intro. Weekend Vigilante, The Antidote. I had a load of them. So this is where I started actually getting involved in it. I found out about NW Truth Radio. And, you know, I started calling into their shows and listening to them, the Dennis Ford show on Friday night, which became the Friday Night Super Show, which you and I were part of last night.
Right.
And then I come to find out about this guy named Chuck Ochelli. You know, Facebook does have some good points where you can actually hook up with people like yourself that have, you know, the same views, the same mission, and that's where I give Facebook credit.
Right.
You know, for one, to meet up with Austin and get involved in Blog Talk, get involved in doing radio. And, you know, then Lee Pierce, I was kicking around this term, the coalition. I'm like, dude, we got to go with this. I was the one that made the coalition page. I'm like, and I just started adding in everybody, you know. I'm like, let's go with this, man. We are the freaking coalition. It is a group of radio networks coming together and everybody in between. And it is a freaking beautiful thing to finding more and more people in the fight for freedom, for truth, for real justice.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. See, when it first got introduced to me, it was with James Impending. And
James Impending, he's another one,
you know,
mass media.
And I talked to him off the air before he started that. He was just doing his Impending Revelation show. And
right.
and I was just like, you know, hey, man, I'll have you on as a guest, you know, because I want to try and highlight different people in the alternative media, too. I do that, you know, along with the authors and the this and that and the third thing. And he's like, yeah, great. So we started talking about how, you know, instead of competing, we should all be working together, really, because it's not about who's going to make the money. It's not about who's going to get the fame. It's about getting the message out there. It's about getting people to think for themselves. And even if we disagree a little bit, you know, as long as we got them thinking and we got them, you know, not being programmed, you know, then we're doing a good job. And the more we work together, the more we'll be able to accomplish, right? And then Brandon Council basically was saying the same thing, and he had that idea in his mind as well, and it just sort of started to come together. Then the Facebook thing happened, and I guess that was you that put that together. And the next thing I know is we're actually starting to network together through there, not just appearing on each other's shows, but starting to work together and promote each other a little bit too.
Exactly. There you go. I was just going to say that. Yep, promoting each other and having each other's back. And if you listen to my song "On the Attack," which I'm actually going to give that a try, I had to pull that down. That actually had to do with what happened with Warren. Yeah, so anyway, my song "On the Attack," which is actually going to have a title change, is going to be called "Cheat to Win," because that's what they do. They cheat to win. Well, you know, the coalition's here. Have no fear. Enough of these infiltrators. We all have each other's back. There are no haters. The same purpose, the same cause. We know what we want, and we fight for all. That's the truth of the coalition. Right. We all fight for the same thing.
No, exactly.
And, you know, we promote each other. We go on each other's shows. We support each other. Hey, we even get involved with each other's personal lives. There's some people that know some dirt on me. I won't even call it dirt. They know some things that are going on in my life, and there's other people that I know what's going on in their lives. And this, you know, this is how personal we've all gotten. It's like a family. I really love that. You know, it's the family outside of the norm. Like, and I consider everybody within the coalition like my true brothers and sisters. You know, my brother from another mother. You know, my sister from another mother. Whatever.
I got you. Yeah. No, but this is what it's about, because, you know, in one way or another, we were all sort of intellectual outcasts. You know, in our own local means in a lot of cases.
Yeah, you're a conspiracy theorist. Dang you.
Yeah, exactly.
You're crazy. You don't know anything. You know, I'm sorry, I don't watch Fox News. Yeah, I don't know nothing.
Yeah, right.
I don't know nothing at all.
Exactly. You know, if Sean Hannity didn't say it, it can't be true. You know.
Oh, right. If Bill O'Reilly didn't put his spin on it, well, I guess, you know, hey. Or spin zone doesn't work with you.
Yeah, for the people that think they're on the other side of the coin, where it's like, well, Rachel Maddow didn't say it, you know. But here's the problem with the other side of the coin, is that either way you flip it over, it's still a damn quarter when you drop it on the counter, man.
Thank you. You see the quarter. You see the ridges. You see the size. You know it's a freaking quarter.
That's it.
You pick it up.
Just because one side is...
There's no lucky side up, brother. You just pick the damn thing up.
You got it. And just because one side's painted red and the other side's painted blue, it's still a quarter.
Exactly.
So
that's it's like when he's like, you see people arguing over Hillary Clinton. Come on, man. But she's going to do anything different than Bush or Obama did. They're all part of the same coin, as you just said. Or how about this? They're one freaking snake with two heads. That's all it is. It's a false... It's a lie. It's the illusion of choice, which you don't have. And I like I said earlier, man, I pulled out of it. I'm not part of the left right paradigm anymore. Give me someone, a hardworking American, a true American. Let them run for president and see what happens. Hey, what's going to happen is the Electoral College is going to step in and go, bye-bye. You know what would be funny? You were talking about voting. Go in there and vote for everybody in your district and vote for all your people. Don't vote for president. I guarantee you, if no one voted for the freaking president or the puppet, I like to call him the head puppet in charge, the head puppet with the pen, don't vote for him. I guarantee you, they'll still come out and announce who won. Why? Because it's the Electoral College. It's who they want in there. Well, who the hell is the Electoral College? Who are these people? It's everybody from the Rothschild family, evidently. I don't know. The Rockefeller family.
Combinations thereof. It's all just different subdivisions of the same corporation. So, and the thing is, those people are selected, man. We're not electing anything. They're pre-selected just for the amusement of those that still want the illusion that they have the freedom of choice, and that's all there is to it.
My song Betrayal. Selected, not elected. There's no difference between them. None. There's no difference.
Right. And so before we get into where we can get a hold of your music and stuff like that, let's talk about, how you started with Worldwide Resistance Radio first.
Okay.
And then, now it's become Warn, which I just look at it and I call it Warn because, that's the way the letters lay out. But, I mean, you started that, which was sort of like a similar, setup like the NWO guys got and like Mass Media's got and like Truth Emerges has. But you're a little different. So, let's get into that and what happened. Why did you change the name and how did that start? And, if you could just tell us a little bit about that.
Well, it started with WWRR, Worldwide Resistance Radio. And it rolled off the tongue nice. That was going for a while, but the resistance thing was beating on me for a while. It's kind of got a negative overtone. I didn't want that. I didn't want to draw the line in the sand. I want to welcome everybody in. Mm-hmm. As I say about my music, I can't beat you up with negative all day and expect you to come back. Who constantly wants to get a beat down? And you going to go back for more? No, you got to mix it up a little bit.
Yeah, you might be in the mood to hear the world sucks every once in a while, but if all you hear is that the world sucks, it gets a little depressing.
Exactly
what it is, Yeah.
And you know what? And the last thing, Chuck, that we need is more depressed people going to big pharma for their drugs. And I guess you didn't catch it when they told you have suicidal tendencies if you take this. We don't need that. We don't need that. No more of that. I'm done with it. I'm done with their classful.
Not just the psychopharmacology, but, mind you, I was watching the other day a commercial for a product, which I swear to you, and if you don't believe me, I guarantee you can find it. I don't remember the name of the product, but it was literally like, if you don't want painful intercourse as a woman after menopause, right? It's basically, in a nutshell, it's a lubricant, okay? But anyway, exactly. This specialized lubricant, which is supposed to make things easier for women who have gone through the change, that wonderful lubricant, it contains all kinds of sort of, wonderful side effects, could cause bleeding, could cause this, could cause death, could blah, 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 right? And
get on the list.
Suicide, and you could be suicidal from it. So even a lubricant you can get suicidal from. It seems to me as though a lot of things, if not everything that comes out of Big Pharma, has a suicidal aspect to it.
Well, let's be real. Georgia Guidestones, they want to trim population down. So, if you're not getting the vaccines, well, hey, you like to have sex, go get the lubricant. And how about this? A little bit of saliva, go down, service the woman a little bit. I mean, hey, it all works. I'm trying to go gruesome or be too vivid here, but you don't need to put Big Pharma.
Exactly. You could probably use something that won't cause her to be suicidal to get the job done. Let's put it that way. Okay.
Imagine how you would feel like you just got done sleeping with this woman and you thought you did a great job. You gave her all the enjoyment she possibly could, and she probably enjoyed it more than you. And then the next day she kills herself. I mean, what's that going to do for the ego, you know?
That is a little rough. I mean, and there are people that we know that probably would cause a woman to be suicidal afterwards. But
Yeah, right.
it doesn't necessarily mean that you want to encourage it.
Right, exactly. Let's beat down the ego a little bit more. So
Right.
she'll call herself the next morning.
Right. So,
then how do you feel?
worldwide resistance, though, you just felt that the word resistance was a problem because it just seemed to be too harsh, a little too bellicose.
Right. Right. And he was just drawing a line in the sand. And it was funny because every time somebody would announce that name, I was kind of like, oh, it would just make me kind of cringe. I'm like, I got to do something about this. And then, talking with Bobby Biesinger and all and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I'm changing it. It's done. So it became World Alliance Radio Network. Warren.
Right.
And it rolled on, and, we rolled with it for a little while. And I came to certain conclusions in my mind with Warren. And I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna bow out. I'm going to bow out for now. And I turned everything over to Bobby Biesinger. And Warren went to win World Integrity News Network, and, they can do what they want with it. They're running their shows. They got great shows. They're driven. They got a great cast under them. And so I stepped out of the whole running a network, and I am focusing back on my album. I've got to get it done and get it released and all the fine technicalities in between and get it done. I want to release it by July 4th. So there's a lot involved with that, plus family time. But here's the thing. I never said I was down and out and going to stop forever. I will be back.
Oh, yeah. Well, and you know what? Speaking about all that, too, is, I seemed like every show I was on with you for a little while there because I did a bunch of them over there with those guys. Now I'm a little more of a rare appearance, but every once in a while I got to step in, But the thing is, for a little while there, every show I was on with you, you were talking about a song called Pawns. All right? And I really liked what you were talking about with that song. And I wonder if you would kind of, nobody, just assume nobody has any idea what we're talking about here and kind of break it down for them and tell them what that's about and where that came from, because I liked listening to you talk about that stuff and wonder if you'd do that for my audience and explain that song.
Pawns is actually lined up to have a video done for it. One of my really good buddies used to do my business team it does film production. Mm-hmm. Great, and he loves special effects. And I've been sitting down, basically writing a script for the video. Pawns is about Satanism in the music industry. Pawns is about how these people sell out for fame and fortune, and they're used as pawns. They're used as trendsetters. They're used for the world order agenda. It's very true. It goes on, the hand symbols. And one thing that they do, which works, if you listen to the last verse that I put in that song, they give them the finest drugs. They create addicts. This all plays into their favor. They were murdered, but it read overdose in the newspaper, or suicide, another broken oath. Their contract is up. Now send in the ghost. It's so easy for them to say, "Oh, they died of a suicide. They were on drugs, or they had an overdose." They do that purposely. They control these people through. I'm telling you, get the best drugs in the music industry. You're never without them. You're always drinking. They always keep you hopped up, and it just really, honestly, became sickening to me. Listening to John Todd Collins, who was, the owner of Zodiac Records, who, by the way, is in bloodline with the 13 Illuminati of World Families or Satanic Families, whatever you want to call them. The Collins family, there's been freaking movies and TV shows done about them. Dark Shadows. Johnny Depp just did the remake of it.
Right.
So that's what Pawns is about. I'm just, when I say, me going on the attack, have you ever been attacked by a renegade? It's because I'm going after, like Diesel Automatic did with his one song, This Is a Diss. That's what I'm doing with Pawns. I'm going after the music industry and putting it out there, what's really going on. I put a lot of audios in there of all these people saying how they sold their soul. Going back to, was it Robert Johnson with the Crossroads, to Bob Dylan on 60 Minutes talking about that, how he sold his soul. Katy Perry, all these people, it's like the norm. Like they just want to make it, cool, kind of like the Illuminati when they kind of flip the tables. Hey, Tupac was out talking about this, and we have films about it now, and all this. It's like becoming the norm. It can't be the norm. This is not the norm. These people are as evil can be.
Well, you know what's interesting to me about that, because I'm not a Christian, and I don't get in line with the Christian agenda, and it seems like it's one of those Christian agenda things to make this statement. But here's the thing: if you want to separate yourself even from the the alleged Christian, Christians are under attack, Christianity is under attack, separate yourself from that entirely. There is a dehumanization that occurs with these people in a very real world sense, without even introducing the supernatural or the occult or any of that stuff into it, where in a real sense they're completely dehumanized. They're perfectly merchandised and packaged. When they die young, they are forever in that young state. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're never going to see an old fat Jim Morrison. You know what I mean? You're never going to see, Kurt Cobain after he gets his stomach stapled and his skin falls down. You know what I mean? None of that's ever going to happen, because they have them frozen in time. Now they're in a perfect package that they can continue to market for generations if they want to. People are still buying, stuff with Elvis Presley on it, for God's sake. And
oh my gosh, what? These people, once they die, they become the biggest artists and biggest. It's like their greatest hits album comes out, and bam, they're richer than ever.
Well, right.
Like, they've made more money in death than they did when they were alive. It's like, what?
And you wait a couple of years, and the estate allows a few more things to leak out, and then you got a brand new piece, from somebody who's been dead for half a decade. You know what I mean? Or even longer in some cases, right? I mean, Hendrix, like the Hendrix estate, for years, all the way up to like 1980, was fighting back and forth with stuff coming out, and and there were albums released, a decade after the guy was dead, with material, and in some cases it's not even good stuff. It's just kind of there, like that Beatles stuff that was done.
Well, it was good because he did it. Even though it was his worst song ever, people were going to love it.
Oh yeah, but that's the thing. But at the same time, if the guy was alive, you probably would have never seen the light of day like it did. But then again, maybe not. I don't know. It's always one of those weird things. But you can see in a very real world sense that people are packaged, that people become a product as opposed to being a human being. That,
exactly. Pawns. They're pawns.
Exactly. And art is a commodity. And the thing is that when you're buying and selling somebody literally like that, without even introducing the concept of their soul, they're being bought and sold. So what else do you call that? You know what I mean?
Right. And it's a shame that these people get used and abused the way that they do. I mean, look at Amy Winehouse, for instance. She came out with her song, help me here, Rehab or something like that.
Yeah.
But she was on a video, or not a video, on an interview on TV, and they asked her, the show host asked her, he didn't name the producer, but he said, yeah, your producer's a pretty big deal. Can I ask you, has he ever tried to get you to do something you didn't want to do? And she goes, straight on air. Yeah, he tried to get me to do that whole pyramid thing with the hand. She goes, I'm not into that. I'm not going to do it. Right. Well, what happened shortly after that? Like a week or two later, she overdosed. Well, does not that go back to my song Pawns?
Well, yeah, exactly.
Right to what I was saying about, you get the finest drugs creating addicts. This all plays into their favor. They were murdered by a red overdose in the newspaper.
And that's the other thing, is you're groomed with that from a really early time. I mean, I used to talk about, I was never famous or anything, but I never lacked for alcohol. I never lacked for drugs. It was just there. It was just part of what was there. You know what I mean?
Well, that's the music industry wants to get you in on that. I mean, look at Lane Staley. The guy from
Alice in Chains.
Thank you, Alice in Chains. Who was Smashing Pumpkins? He was dead for 2 weeks in his home. Really? Like, and no one noticed that? Like, he was always constantly strung out on heroin. Like, that was his thing. That's what he needed to make good music with. Like, it blows my mind that people accept these excuses that the music industry puts out. I mean, Michael Hutchins from NXS, but he he hung himself, with a belt. Like, his life was that freaking bad. Hey, doesn't this go back to, pharmaceuticals? Their whole to create, these side effects suicidal thoughts and tendencies. I mean, like, what's really going on?
Yeah.
What is going on within this freaking industry? It blows my mind. It actually angers me.
Wasn't
How
even
do they
like
keep using these people like this?
Yeah, and it wasn't even like it was a David Carradine accident either. You know what I mean? You remember that situation, you know. But then again, there's always these weird hangings with certain people too. I mean, Robin Williams. You know what I mean? There's always like
Joan Rivers.
Joan. Well, that was a whole bizarre thing too. But
she comes out and talks about Michael Obama. Did I say Michael? Oh, my fault. I meant to say Michelle Obama. She comes out and talks about how she is actually a man. Like, this was on TV. And then all of a sudden she winds up dead.
Right.
Oh, she had a heart attack. Really? We're going to believe that.
During one of the
Like
many plastic surgeries that she was having.
Yeah, just like Michael Jackson, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, he was starting to wake up. He wanted to come out and actually expose what's really going on. Oh, they didn't want that, but his doctor killed him. So now they have their scapegoat, their little patsy. They're blaming him when they want to put him through the ringer. He was following orders.
Yeah,
Kill that guy. He knows too much. He's got too many fans. He's gonna wake too many people up, and we're gonna have a real problem.
And talk about all the weirdness that led up to that too. I mean, the devolution of Michael Jackson. I mean, you know, the shape he was in from all the plastic surgeries. That's another weird thing. Like I said, once you're a commodity, you know, you're wide open to alteration of all sorts. And listen, I've added a caller into the show. 516, you're on the air. Caller, you're on.
What?
Oh, there you are.
Hi, I'm actually, I was invited to come listen.
Val.
Hey, what's up?
Hey, girl.
Hi, how are you? I tried listening from here before, but the phone was busy for a while, so.
Well, you know what it is, because you can listen on the internet and you don't have to call in, but like I take phone calls and they just come right on the air. So I wasn't letting anybody come on the air until I, you know, got to go through things with Renegade a bit first. So that's why.
Was I not supposed to call in?
No, you're good. You're good. No, you're good.
Okay, because I was walking around. I was at my computer, but I was walking around doing things, but I didn't want to miss the show, so.
No, it's cool. It's just that, see, on Blog Talk, you call in, you can just hang out and listen through your phone. But on here,
I love that. I love that.
Yeah, on
right,
here.
That's what I thought that was.
Well, on here, you just listen to it. You can listen to it through an app, or you can listen to it on the website, or, you know, if you got a smartphone, you can listen to us on TuneIn, stuff like that. But if you call, I put you on the air. Boom, that's it. No screen. No,
oh, awesome. That's okay with me. I was on the air previously, right?
You know what's great? You know what's great about this? Wasn't I just talking about Freedomizer and how it did all the interest for people? I mentioned the Truth Exposition Show. Well, right now we have the host from the Truth Exposition Show right here, Val Ann. And this woman right here, if you've ever heard any of her shows, she's as real as she is on her shows. She is that real in the real world. Like, this is the thing with the coalition. We are not, like, out here, like, you know, there's a stupid post by this dude Anthony, you know, calling out Dennis Ford and NWO Truth Radio and Brian Guy. You know, stop the baby crap, man. You know, if any of them are listening, especially him, dude, get over it, go on, get a girlfriend, go do something, start your own freaking network, stop bringing up dirt from the past, stop being butthurt, man, move on with your freaking life. It's pathetic. But anyway, we have Val Ann on air with us from Freedomizer, which basically got the whole thing started. And hey, Chuck, just to answer your question earlier, the reason why I did start the network was because everybody was full. The inn was full. And I had so many, you know, I had Harry Link asking me to come over to Truth Broadcasting Network to do a show there. I had, you know, Austin, Freedomizer, Proof was asking me to do shows. All these people asked me to do shows, but I don't have the time necessarily to do a show every week because of the music and, you know, other things going on. So I'm like, you know what? Let's extend the arm of the coalition. That's why I created the network, because I wanted to be able to go and just pop up a show whenever I could. Plus, open up a doorway for anybody else that wanted to come in and join the coalition.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, you know, and that's the thing. I mean, like I you know, I'm doing my thing, and I'm like a singular member. I'm not a whole network that joined up. But the thing is, I do the same thing. You know, when it comes to I'll even take on, like, I didn't know anything about Bobby B. Singer until he said, "Well, I'll come on." And I said, "Well, let me see what it is you do, man." I knew nothing about, that whole organization he's got. I knew nothing about, really what his personal principles were, because I don't have time to listen to everybody. You know what I mean? But the fact that I knew he was hooked up with you, and the fact that I knew he was on the, that he was part of the coalition, I said to myself, well, you know what? Can't be far off from what I want to put on the air. So I put him on without even talking to him, really. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he's a good guy. I mean, they have this mission to them. They have a whole network of people that are working on all sorts of, they hate putting out this info, and I love that about WIN, World Integrity News Network, and that's what WIN became. It's now that network. I turned it over to Bobby because I could have shut it down and been a real douche, but I didn't do that. There's so many great archives in there, from Larry Dickinson, from Knucklebones, to the shows I was doing, a Honey Badger this in the beginning, to all the shows from WIN, Reach Out America, and, Anonymous from Behind the Mask. There's all these great shows. So I said, Bobby, you know what? Take over the network, man. So that's what he did. So, if Bobby's got the network, he's gone with it. He's a great guy. I love that guy. I talk with him all the time.
Yeah, I was a guest on Behind the Mask on Wednesday. So
nice. Yeah, that's a great show. That's like every other week they do that show.
Right.
So, like I said, I bowed out. Bobby took it over, but I'm not saying I'm down and out. I'm taking a little time off. I'm focusing on some things I need to focus on right now. But guess what? The arm of the coalition is going to grow once again, because I will be back. I've had a lot of people reach out to me and ask me, hey, what happened? What's going on here? Come on. Hey, I'm not saying I'm down and out forever. I'm just trying to get things in order here and really, focus where I need to focus. But, hey, don't count us down and out. There will be another network coming. And like I said, the arm of the coalition will grow again. No doubt.
Exactly. I mean, and the more the merrier, and that's the thing, if we're trying to get out honest information, not
right.
saying that perfection is going to happen with anybody in particular, but, if we're trying to get out honest information, and we've all got our, different areas of interest and angles that we're coming at it, you know what I mean? If you put it all together and it becomes a giant chorus, this is how the job gets done. You know what I mean? This is the only way that we're really going to be able to significantly put a dent in the sleepwalker population out there.
And part of that, Chuck, too, is learning law. And we have Val Ann on with us. She was a paralegal. This woman is so versed and so just knows how to go at it. And we had a very long conversation last night about what she's dealing with in New York. And I would love to kind of give Val the floor a little bit, just to put it out there with the listeners, what's going on in New York. Because you know what? I don't think it stops in New York with what's going on. I think this is a national event that has to stop. They are pillaging and raping us every freaking day. It's like they want to purposely keep us down with all their stupid. These statutes are out of control. These statutes are not law. You have a right to freaking travel. You have a right to travel openly and freely. It is supposed to be uninterrupted. But they want to, ticket you and boot your car, and then you tow your car, then you have to go through the freaking waterworks to get your personal property back. And I'm actually really upset about this. Val, can you please just give the listeners a little piece of what you just dealt with?
Absolutely. Okay, so last weekend, last Saturday, I'll try to keep it as brief as possible, but Renegade knows my brief story. So basically, I was walking out to my car, and I had seen my car was booted. And I owed a few parking tickets that I didn't pay. Anyway, so I called. The problem, what they do is the city of New York will also stigmatize you in the community. What they do is they put these big white and orange stickers. They're big stickers. They put them on the front of your car, and they actually slap them to the driver's side window, just to basically stigmatize you, bright orange, white. And it basically says your car is booted, call this number. I called the number to get the boot of my car and pay whatever tickets I had to pay. So first, the oppression started with that phone call. Basically, I owed about $450 in tickets. I was going to pay it, but the other issue was you had to pay $268 for the boot. So this big yellow pretty boot, I had to pay $268 to get taken off plus tickets. So when I requested them to come remove it, and I was going to pay what needed to be paid at that moment, And when I had to email them I had to email them my insurance card and my registration. And when I did that, the woman ran my information and found that I had a suspended registration. Now, there was an issue back in January with State Farm Insurance Company. It's not about them, but there was an issue that was straightened out. My insurance should not have canceled. There was an issue. So they said they were going to straighten it out with the DMV. I was good. So I couldn't get my car unbooted. They couldn't take the boot off because of the registration. So anyway, they advised me to go to the DMV on Monday because that was Saturday, just to straighten it out so I can go re-register my car. No big deal. I take the subway over to the DMV and wait there 3.5 hours to find out that the DMV cannot do anything about the one-day registration the insurance lapse when there wasn't a lapse. I explained this to them, and they said, you need to deal with it with your insurance company. So that was I said, okay, let me go do that. And they said, what you need to do is go to the Department of Finance, which is, I'm going to get into about how they treat people in the city of New York. Go to the Department of Finance, and basically you have to get an impound letter. They had to also tow my car. I left that out. So they had to tow my car because of my insurance, my registration was suspended. And I live in Brooklyn. I don't have a driveway. So I have public, street parking. So they had to tow my vehicle because of that. So not only did they boot it, they had to take my car. So anyway, I went to the Department of Finance and just to ask for a letter and an impound letter so I can go back to the DMV and wait one day and register my vehicle. When I arrived at the Department of Finance on Drummond Street, downtown Brooklyn, they tell me that it's not going to be today that I get my vehicle. It's not going to be that day that I get a letter. It could take 1 to 2 weeks to get a letter. And I asked, why does it take so long? That DMV needs a letter today. And my response from the typical city worker was, the DMV doesn't tell us how to do our job. So anyway, I was directed by the administrative attorney for the city of New York that I had to see, which to me is a system that's biased and a conflict of interest. Think about it. I have to see their attorney to negotiate with them. Now, that attorney is not going to work. Yeah. Yep.
Is the DMV privatized in New York, or is it part of the government?
It's government.
Okay.
It's government.
Okay.
Yeah, the Department of Motor Vehicle is one of the hundreds of thousands of governmental agencies that are part of New York State. Yes, it is government. It's not private. Department of Finance is, let me make it clear, the DMV obviously is state, so that is a governmental entity under New York State.
Right.
The Department of Finance is a government agency under the city of New York. The Department of Finance, right. So here I'm dealing now with two government agencies that do not work or are nor there for the people. So I met with the administrative attorney, and again, they're not working for me. They work for the city, so they're not going to do anything to really help me. Think about it. And they gave me a paper. I said, okay, go pay your tickets, and we'll let you know when we can give you back your car. I said, oh, so basically you're holding my asset. You basically stole my car from me because I never entered into any contract that you were able to take my car from me if I didn't take a ticket. And they said, well, you need to go pay your tickets if you want your car back. So basically it's extortion to me. So not only does the DMV extort you, the city of New York also, engages in extortion by holding the only asset you probably have, right? Living in the city, because you can't own property in the city. It's impossible unless you're part of the 1% elite.
Well,
anyway,
see, the weird thing about that is, right, that you kind of contracted already with the state agency because you have a license issued by them.
Right, exactly.
So, therefore, by extension of that contract, all of these other things are triggered, right? Because...
Well, think about it. No, you're right, but think about it. My license is through the state. This is the city. They're a different entity.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah.
This is the thing, though, Val and Chuck. Why do we have to enter into a social contract? What the hell is a social contract crap? Like, it's just like with mortgages. You're going out there to try to better your life. I just got my driver's license. I'm 16 years old. And then they want you to enter into a social contract, which is basically doing you damage. That's what these things are doing. They're getting you to basically sign your life on things that you don't agree with. This is trickery. This is deception. And this is not the American way of life. This is the thing that we have got to stop. This makes me so mad.
Yeah.
Why I do the music that I do?
Well, especially with what we do with exposing truth and about government agencies and everything, and we know that they're there just to extort money from the people. They're not there for the people. They're not there working right. They're part of the problem. They're not there. The city of New York government is not there to work on behalf of the people. It's there
and
to
that's a shame.
as much. It is a shame, but the people need to wake up about it. So listen to the rest of it. So they told me I had to go to the first floor. I went to the first floor to go pay my ticket so I can get my car. So when I went to the first floor, again, another city worker, as lazy as a lot of them can be, I went to, the desk where I had to go pay. I paid, and I said, can I get my letter now and go get my car? She goes, you can't go get your car. You can't drive it out. What we need to do now is you need to go get your car towed at your own expense out of the impound yard because we're taking your plates. I said, okay. So how am I going to do that? She goes, that's your problem. So I had to go pay $863. When I went to go pay, remember, my tickets were only $450. So I had to pay $860. When I went to go pay, with my debit, credit card. And the kid, which was a kid behind the glass that you can't even get to yell over so everybody knows your business, he says, well, you're using a card, so we need to charge you 2%. And I said, you need to charge me 2% because I'm using a card. I said, what true New Yorker walks around with $800 riding the subway? So they know they have you there. Think about it. Nobody is going to carry in the city, if they're smart, that amount of money on the streets of New York City. It's not going to happen.
Well,
so
not only that,
but
they're passing along the cost of doing business with you on something that actually did not cost them that amount of money in order to create the situation.
Exactly.
Which is really bizarre.
That's right.
Because they're trying to recoup, their fees for utilizing that service. That's what that is. And here's the funny thing. Here's the really ironic part about all of this, and don't worry, I'm not going to interrupt you again, but...
Oh, no, it's fine. Your show. Okay.
But here's what's funny, is that, they want to enforce, it's selective enforcement, because they enforce their contractual rights based on the fact that you contracted with them, over your driving privilege and all that. But realistically speaking, when you're talking about the people who work for the city not working for the people, the whole reason why a city is incorporated in the first place is to serve the people. So their foundational contractual obligations are completely ignored without any sort of problem, but you can't ignore theirs. When it comes to actually having to, make some sort of recompense to them. There's no way for you to avoid that. Plus, they've created whole mechanisms that are for profit. And you know what? Even if you don't have the money, it's okay because they'll impound it, claim it, and then resell it at auction.
Yeah, that's what they're going to do. Yep.
Yeah. So there you go. It's just and all it is really is just a way to shuffle things around. People have had this problem where they didn't even legitimately have tickets, and they, how do you prove that you didn't have a ticket when they've got it in their system? You know what I mean? It's like, and meanwhile, you waste all this time, which costs, time is money. You got to waste your time. You got to put up your property. You got to either surrender it or you got to, pay an exorbitant amount. Plus, don't worry, you're going to also pay for the fees that it requires to do the financial transaction. That's always hysterical, right?
That was the 2% that I had to pay them when they know for a fact that New York City people, I've been here all my life, they know not to turn around the city with $800. You know what I mean? So they know they're going to be able to make so much money from that 2% processing fee. They like to call it, like give it a nice name, a processing fee. Acting like they're helping you process your transaction when it really was only a transaction because of the laws they passed under your nose and while you're sleeping. I never agreed to any of that.
Right.
But you're right. Go ahead. You can, finish what you were saying, and I'll tell you. I posted something on Facebook about this. I wrote a letter to the borough president. I'm going to write a letter to the mayor. I'm going to basically use the same letter, but kind of change it around and, address it to them. And I'm actually going to send the letter to my state senate and congressman although I don't believe they work for the people, at least I know I'm going to get it out there and expose it. Because the city of New York, the people of the city of New York have just about had it. Every person that I speak with and every person in that room at the Department of Finance literally clapped when I made my speech and how they extort money from people. And everybody in that room literally was really happy that I brought that up. And there were people there saying, yeah, I agree with you. People are there giving their hard-earned money for these fees. And I'll be honest with you, 2 of those tickets, and I failed to mention, Renegade, 2 of those tickets they said I had, I never received those tickets on my windshield. I have no idea where they came from. So I'm glad you mentioned that because I never seen 2 of those tickets. There was only 2 tickets that I had seen.
See, that's the thing about with these stupid tickets. These, they're all there to pirate us. They're all there to take money from us when you've done nothing freaking wrong. You know, the speed limit sign.
Exactly. In my letter, I even put that this violation, if they want to call it a violation, is victimless, which means I did not hurt another human being. I did not hurt anyone's property. I didn't commit any kind of crime, but yet they treat you like a felon. They treat you terribly. I mean, when I was there, the people treated me terribly. Throughout this entire process, I'm not even done yet what I've been going through. The only person, an employee with the city of New York that actually helped me was a city marshal by the name of John at one of the offices. He made sure that he was going to get an officer to go pick up my place because that is the next thing I had to do. So I had to hire a tow truck to tow my vehicle out of the impound yard because I couldn't drive it on the street because it had no registration or no plate. They took them. So not only did I have to hire,
everything you're talking about, me and you have talked about before. You know, Chuck, we've been talking about 9/11 waking me up, and finding out the Illuminati, and finding out about fluoride and GMOs and vaccines and all the bad that they are doing. I told my kids, and I've told other people this: start researching law, because law is what they're trying to get over on us, and they do it all the freaking time. They do what is basically their statutes are treasonous. So everything that Val's going through is she's dealing with treason because it's all going against what has been secured by the Constitution, or right to travel freely and uninterrupted. And when you boot a car or you take someone's car, not only are you taking away their livelihood, but you just interrupted the right to travel freely and uninterrupted. How are they allowed to get away with this crap? It angers me so much. We have got to stop this.
You're right, but the only way to stop this is to expose what they do and to wake more people up to see the big picture. People, the problem is people are they're so willing to conform that they're not going to fight back. Like, this is my own, maybe this happened to me for a reason, because I say things happen for a reason. So maybe,
I told you it did.
I know I didn't. So, you know what? So what? I didn't pay these frivolous tickets that I got. I didn't do anything wrong. There were no victims. I didn't hurt anybody's property. I didn't hurt any human being. I got these tickets about a license plate, my front plate not being on my car.
And that's what it comes down to. And that's why you said what you said. If there's no victim, there's no freaking crime. If you haven't hurt somebody physically or harmed their property or went against their civil rights, you have not committed a freaking crime. But this is why they create all these stupid statutes to blame you for a crime that doesn't even exist in the first place, just to extort money from you.
Oh yeah, it's very much like the scam they have in New Jersey, where you have these toll booths, which are on the the Garden State Parkway and also on the Turnpike, right? So what happens is you're supposed to throw in 50 cents when you go through.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, if they take a picture of your plate and they say that you didn't pay your 50 cents, whether you did or didn't is almost irrelevant. But if they take a picture and they say that you went through the booth without paying, now like 25 cents used to become 25 cents plus $25. 50 cents becomes 50 cents plus $50. Now, if you just mail them a check, that's the end of the story, right? But if for some reason you don't, now that fine becomes higher. Then they suspend your registration, which means that if you get it pulled over, they take it and impound it, and it's the same thing. But realistically, it is over a dispute of 50 cents that they end up being able to claim your vehicle,
which is worth thousands of dollars.
Yeah, right.
Like how does that add up?
Yeah,
it doesn't.
Exactly.
And how does this add up? Toll booths or they're wrong to begin with. You don't have a right to stop us and toll us. This disrupts my right to openly travel freely.
Well, they just, remember we were discussing it last night, speaking about tolls. There's a bridge called, if they increase the Verrazano Bridge, that means they increase the George Washington Bridge.
I hate that bridge.
And they increase the Rob's Neck. So the main bridges that go from Brooklyn to Staten Island, which is also part of the city of New York, they just increased it in March to $16 to go over one bridge. $16
one way. One way, $16 over, and then you have to come back out of Brooklyn. That's another freaking,
right.
I think it was 15 one way, and then coming back out was 13. That's freaking, $38 freaking dollars? $28?
Yeah, when you go over the Staten Island, when you go over the bridge, it's called the Verrazano Bridge. When you go over the bridge coming from Brooklyn to Staten Island, it's $16. Then, if you have to go to, like, Pennsylvania or Jersey, if you have to take the Goethals Bridge, that's another $13. They must have increased that because they increased all the tolls, and it's MTA for New York and New Jersey. So the thing is, it's not really freedom. There's no freedom to traverse anymore. There's no freedom to travel anywhere around here. There's another bridge that, you have then you have the Midtown Tunnel, the Battery Tunnel to get into New York City, and then you have another bridge to go into the Bronx. The problem I have with that is these are bridges to get to one part of New York City to another part of New York City. The problem
they can lock you down just based off of your money. I don't have the money to go there today.
I'm going to tell you. I'll tell you what happened one time to me. I was doing a job.
You need to finish. I was sorry to interrupt you. I just want to really touch on your point. But you need to finish with everything that happened with you. Like, listeners have to hear what's going on. Because this isn't just happening in New York. This is all throughout the United States.
It's happening in other places. Yeah, it's happening in other places. But think about it happening to me. But I live in a city of 9 million people. So it's not only happening to me. This is happening to, millions of people that live here that have a car. It's like in the city, you're punished for having a car. You're shunned for having a car. And to me, it's all like a part of Agenda 21, which we can get into in a little while. Yeah, but the thing is, so I went, paid my ticket, and I hired a tow truck. Thank God this guy was so nice. I hired a tow truck to, tow my car. And if I didn't pick up my car within 24 hours of paying my ticket, they would charge me $40 per day. So I hired the tow truck the next day because it was within the 24 hours. I had to take 3 subways just to get to this place. This place is in a very remote industrial area, and it's very hard to get to. It's like 3 subways I had to take, and then I would have had to walk like 25 minutes. I don't mind the walking. It's good exercise, no big deal, but it's just the point. So the tow truck guy was so helpful throughout this whole thing. He picked me up from the subway. He took me there. He waited with me. He towed my car away, and I have to now store the vehicle because I don't have a driveway. Okay, I live in an apartment building, so I have to park on the street. So I have no private parking. The only private parking I could have is my parents who live in Long Island, Nassau County. I could have had it towed, and I could have kept it on their driveway, but it was $350 to tow it there. I didn't have that. So I'm storing it for like $10 a day. The other issue I'm dealing with is for a week I've been calling the marshals and letting them know the whole thing is that the Department of Finance will not let me pick up my own plates to bring them to the Department of Motor Vehicles to hand them in myself and get new plates. Their policy is I need to take my vehicle out, they hold the plate, then the officer that put the boot on my car has to go pick up the plates himself, bring it back to the Department of Finance, where now the Department of Finance destroys them, lets the DMV know, and then they let me know when I can register my car. So a city agency now has the power over a New York State agency that tells me when I can register with my car, when the state agency said, all I need to do is wait one day. Now, I'm at the mercy of the city marshal to go pick up my plate. So I've been calling on a daily basis since Tuesday. And finally, I got an officer to go and supposedly pick up my plates today on Saturday. They told me that the officer that booted my car will not be at the impound yard until May 1st. If I didn't have an officer agree, another one agree, and if this guy John did not help me and push another officer to pick up my plate, my car would be laying up until May 1st, until that freaking police, until that city marshal got his butt over to the impound yard to pick up my plate. So I was at the mercy. Now I have to work. Now, you know what I mean? So I have a couple of jobs to do that I can't go to because I need a car. I was supposed to pick up my son this weekend. I couldn't because I didn't have a car. So not only did the city of New York cost me every dime I had until I got paid again, what they did was they interrupted my life. So what I need to do is expose this by letter to every government agency that I know for the city of New York and the state, and expose what they're doing to people, because this is basically...
They're robbing you.
They're robbing me and they're violating my civil rights, and that's how I feel. So I'm exposing this, and I'm going to fight, and I'm not done. This may have happened for a reason, so it's because I'm going to fight it.
Well, right, and there are so many issues where, to be honest with you, the entire point of the bureaucracy is to keep you busy and to keep you broke and to keep you spending everything you got, so that you got to keep going out and working, and you got to keep going out and producing, and you got to keep going out and feeding into the system, because that way you're kept plenty busy and you got no time to lift up your head, look around.
That's exactly what it is.
And
that's what it is.
The real problem is,
That's yeah.
Well, Valak, you were telling me, like, you live here, but they want to take everything from you. So how can you contribute back to your community when they want to sock you for everything that you got? I mean,
exactly.
You spend all your money on fines. How much money do you have left over to eat? Nothing. Like, how can you feed your child?
And the banking system is another thing. The banking system is another issue. That, trust me, I'm not claiming victim. I'm not claiming a victim here. I'm never a victim because I fight back. So I'm never a victim. But the reason why I'm exposing this is because I'm doing it for other people in the city of New York and nationwide that go through this with their local government. So by me exposing it, I'm not only just helping myself. This is, I'll get my car. Either way, I'll get my car.
But it blows my mind the fact that this is the thing. Look at the listeners. Understand something. Look at your car as a horse. Back in the day, this is where the right to travel freely started. You could get on that horse and you could ride it wherever you wanted. But you're going to let someone come into your property and take your horse? This is your lifeline. And the Department of Transportation has no right ever to say, oh, we're taking your license. Well, go freaking have my license, because honestly, I don't need a license to operate my vehicle, which is my means to not only, win my bread and butter, to contribute back to your bogus freaking system, but it's my lifeline. Because if I can't get to my job with my vehicle, which is, or my horse, to travel freely and uninterrupted, how the heck am I going to put freaking food on the table for my family? You're going to take my belongings? That is called theft. And this, we have let it go too far.
But this is what it is. There is a complex system of exactly that. There are multiple levels, there are multiple layers of it, and some of it is barely even noticeable. It's just a few dollars here, a few pennies there, a few this and that. I mean, what she's talking about is a lot more, but the thing is, it's everywhere. When you go to make a purchase, there's a tax that's really an unaccounted for tax most of the time.
That's right.
Your sales and use, all this stuff. Everywhere you turn, there's somebody getting a piece of your labor. There's somebody getting a piece of your value, alleged value, in this big giant system. And banking, the whole thing with transportation, the difficulties with having to move around, the new expenses regarding what it is you have to pay for when you decide to engage in this sort of travel and that sort of travel. All this stuff, though, all of it, even the taxes on your telecommunications, your internet, which is now going to get worse. Great. Anyway, all these things are all designed to just continuously chip away at you so that you remain on the hamster wheel. You never have that moment to really take stock of what's actually happening. And
right, you don't have that moment to catch your breath. You said it right, the hamster wheel, man. You're running out of breath. Like, you run out of options sometimes. Like, what can I do?
Right.
Like, you going to turn to being a thief? I mean, this is where they got us at. The whole freaking world order, I hate calling it the New World Order because this is the old world order. This is the way they've wanted it for a long time. Good luck to them making it happen. There's too many freedom lovers out here, and there's too many people waking up because of shows like this, radio, the Ochelli
And there are.
effect.
Right. That's true. There are a lot of people waking up to this. I mean, people that I never thought would wake up about it are seeing it now. It's becoming more public now, and thanks to social media. I mean, think about it. Thanks to
and the
social
radio
media.
shows.
If it wasn't for, I was just going to say that. If it wasn't for social media, and it wasn't for internet, you and I probably would never have met before. I would never have been on the show. We all would have been on the show. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I don't want to interrupt you. I was just going to say, well, the social media backlashed on him. You know, the social media, the whole internet itself was David Rockefeller's brainchild because they wanted to be able to, I guess, share information. They never saw it. See, the oligarchs are stupid. You know, through all their little facts and data and their little computer systems that they run with the tests that they run on the public to gather their facts and data so they think they can control us better. They never saw what was coming with the information superhighway known as the internet. We are now openly able to freely, and Chuck, you just mentioned it, they want to shut this down, but right now we're openly able freely to share information about what is going on, what these oligarchs, the puppet masters are freaking doing. And I'm sorry, they're not going to impose their will on me. And as far as I can see, they're not. There's so many Americans waking up. You know, I love playing this show on Warren, the show, this video clip of a guy in Chile approaching David Rockefeller in freaking Chile. This is worldwide.
Oh, yeah. I had seen
and
that.
And he blasted him. He blasted David Rockefeller. He told him, screw you and your New World Order.
No, I got you. Listen, Renegade, we're down to less than 2 minutes, okay, believe it or not. So my bumper is going to kick in. Before we go anywhere else, I want to let you tell people where they can find your stuff, your music we were talking about, the radio network. Please do that before that, because once that bumper kicks in, I can't control it, man. That'll be the end of the show. So please do that.
You. Well, as of now, you can go to SoundCloud.com. Just search Renegade Smith. You will find me there. You can also go to YouTube. I have a couple of videos uploaded on YouTube, but I'm actually going to get active with it. Like I said earlier, I have a video coming out for Pawns. I will be dropping money on to do that to make it a nice, glamorized production. There, you can also find me, on Blog Talk anywhere. As of now, my new someday possible network will be coming out. You will be one of the first to know, brother. But in the meantime, I will, once my album is done, you can find me everywhere. You'll be able to find me on iTunes, Rhapsody, Amazon. It doesn't matter. I'm working on a website right now. It will be renegadesmith.com. And, if you want any gear or anything, it's all going to be available to you.
Cool.
I don't
listen.
A lot of
check.
brother.
You make sure when you get that running to hook me up on the Google Plus
Definitely
thing,
will.
and make sure you put me in the circles and all that, and I'll definitely spread your stuff around. I'm the Blind JFK Researcher on YouTube. I want to thank everybody who decided to listen. I turned away some callers at the beginning of the show, including you. Sorry about that, but but hey, maybe next time we'll do this again with Renegade. All right. And
man, I love your show. Is awesome, brother. You know what? I got to give you some props, man. I love hearing you come on. The shows within the coalition, because you're always like that voice of reason. That voice you just put it out there the way it should be put out there. Like everyone sitting there arguing, and all of a sudden you hear the voice of Chuck Ochelli come through, and it's just like so clear, and the clarity's there, and you have that mindset to you. Like you're like, no nonsense, man. This is where it's at. This is what's got to be done. And hey, this is the issue. Let's look at it in layman's term, and you always put it out there properly, man. I love hearing you come on the shows, man. And when I got my new network going, if it ever happens in the future, and I'm sure it will, like I said, people have been reaching out to me, and I love doing radio, and I want you to call in, brother. I would love having my show.
Stop.